pledge allegiance to the flag Okay, roll call, please, Beth.
Granquist,
Here.
Langy,
Here.
Merrill,
Here.
Clausen,
Here.
Murin,
Here.
Jackson,
Here.
Faust,
Here.
File.
Here.
Okay, I would look for a motion to approve the consent agenda with one change, removal of item number 11.
So move, Your Honor. Second.
Okay, please vote.
All council members present voting in the affirmative.
And a motion to approve the full agenda.
So move. Second.
Please vote.
All council members present voting in the affirmative.
That moves us to special presentations. Item number 25, a presentation by Tracy Jeffrey, Norfolk Area Visitors Bureau, of their 2016 Economic Impact Study done for tourism. Good evening.
Get started. So, wasting more time. Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. As all of you guys know, my name is Tracy Jeffrey, the Executive Director for the Norfolk Area Visitors Bureau, and here with me is Ron Stauffer, President of our board. So what does tourism look like? In front of you guys today is a PowerPoint presentation, and Ron's going to hand out some additional cards that shows our 2016 economic impact for tourism. It shows that we had 243,000 visitors in Madison County for 2016, which is approximately $40.5 million spent. Interesting fact, tourism supports 835 jobs in Norfolk. That means 1 out of 35 jobs exist because of tourism. Madison County tourism generated $6.5 million in tax revenue, including $3.5 million in state and local revenue. Tourism also provides tax relief for our residents. In Madison County, each homeowner saves about $248 a year because of tourism. Tourism helps fund 12% of the city's fire budget, 17% of the library funding, and 17% of the 12% of police spending, 17% of the fire, and 17% of the library funding. If tourism were to disappear, taxes would go up or city services would go down. As you know, Norfolk is a key shopping center and retail hub for this region. Madison County per capita retail sales is 70% higher than the regional average. The Norfolk Area Visitors Bureau and the Norfolk Area Sports Council continue to look at bringing events all year round. Here are some examples. Leap dance competition held in March every year. Norfolk is one of the smallest communities to host that event. Some other cities include Tucson, San Diego, and Kansas City. We continue to provide assistance with Nebraska School Activities Association, including state golf, state one act, and state journalism. Each have been awarded to Norfolk for multiple years and continue to bring people to our community across the state. Held this summer was Slide the City. It is typically held in big cities, and we were able to sell out our tickets well in advance of the event. We actually sold more tickets than Reno, Nevada. There are many other examples I could talk about, such as the bus tours, our different attractions for Madison County conventions and community celebrations. From annual festivals that draw hundreds to our area, to special event entertainments, to ongoing attractions and recreation, we continue to provide excitement and stability to Madison County. We look forward to continuing our work with you guys in the future. Thank you very much for your time.
Any questions?
Questions? We do this survey, or this economic impact every 2 years, just to kind of keep everyone informed on tourism.
We appreciate the information. It was, if I got the numbers right, almost 250,000 in
240.
terms of visitors, right?
Correct.
And 835 jobs related to tourism in the county. Okay, generating 45 million a year. I think it's sometimes easy to overlook, but I think we track pretty consistently with the rest of the state, and that tourism's our third largest industry.
Right.
And the importance of it can't be overstated. So thank you for taking the time to be in front of us. Any questions, council?
Great.
Flood the city, great idea, creative,
We
bringing new
appreciate
things to
city's
town.
support.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right, very good.
Thank you very much.
All right. Item number 26, proclamation for November 1st as Extra Mile Day. Whereas the city of Norfolk, Nebraska is a community that acknowledges that a special vibrancy exists within the entire community when individual citizens collectively go the extra mile in personal effort, volunteerism, and service. And whereas the city of Norfolk, Nebraska acknowledges the mission of the Extra Mile America Foundation to create 200 extra mile cities and states in America, and is proud to support Extra Mile Day on November 1st, 2017. Therefore, be it resolved that I, Josh Moaning, Mayor of the City of Norfolk, Nebraska, do hereby proclaim November 1st, 2017 as Extra Mile Day. Is there anyone here to receive the proclamation tonight? Okay, very good. Moving forward to the regular agenda, item number 27. Look for a motion to consider approval of ordinance number 5493, annexing a tract of land generally located immediately north of part of Walters East Knolls 11th Edition.
Your Honor, I'd offer consideration of ordinance number 5493.
This was just going to offer a reminder, this passed on first reading at the September 5th council meeting, so we're on second reading. Any questions, comments? Steve, did you want to add any background on this to refresh our memory?
This would be the next phase of some development up there. It's in the north, 11th edition. Continue to build out that area. Community, everything again, compliance with what we need for final planning and development of that area.
Okay. Any questions or comments, council? If not, I'd ask for your vote. Oh, yep. Yeah, short time.
An ordinance of the City of Norfolk, Nebraska to annex to said city a part of the northeast quarter of the northwest quarter of Section 24, Township 24 North, Range 1, west of the 6th PM, Madison County, Nebraska.
Okay, please vote.
All council members present voting in the affirmative, ordinance 5493 carries on second reading only.
Number 28, I look for a motion to consider ordinance number 5494, authorizing issuance of combined utilities revenue and refunding bonds in the principal amount not to exceed $9,500,000 to refund the Series 2011B and Series 2012B combined utilities revenue bonds and provide funding for improvements to the sanitary sewer system.
Your Honor, I'd move consideration of ordinance 5494.
Second.
Okay. Randy, would you kick off the discussion on this for us?
Yes, Your Honor. This will be done as a competitive sale, and we expect underwriters to bid on that fairly well. The actual issue size is expected to be $9,360,000, but this allows up to $9.5 million in case someone wants to bid it with an original issue discount. Emeritus will be acting as our advisor on this sale, and Bruce Lefler from Emeritus is here tonight. Need an address, any questions you might have. The info in the agenda packets is based on preliminary interest rates, and those will change based on the bid results. The actual bidding and award is expected to be done the middle of next week, and either the mayor or the president of the council can sign the official bid form and call direction at that time. The closing will be towards the end of October. We have applied to Moody's for a bond rating and expect to receive rating results tomorrow. This is a 20-year bond issue with a 5-year par call and no debt service reserve. The existing debt service reserve on the refunding bonds of almost $750,000, or is the amount of the refunding bonds needed. And we're also putting in about $297,000 of water fund cash to pay off the small portion of remaining water fund bonds outstanding. $4,795,000 of this issue is to refund the outstanding revenue bonds, and the 2011 issue has a 2011B expects to reduce the debt service payments by about $147,000, and that present value is 8.5% of the refunded principal. And for the 2012B bonds, reducing debt service payments by about $160,000, and that present value benefit of 3.3%. Normally, we wouldn't do an issue with that low of a net present value benefit, but since we're already have a big issue coming up, refunding the bonds, and don't expect interest rates to go any lower, we thought we'd capture that $160,000 savings at this time. Once again, these are preliminary numbers. They will change when we get the actual bids back. And then the sewer system improvements for the new money is for Northeast Industrial Sanitary Sewer Phase 1, the Southwest Sanitary Sewer Interceptor Phase 2 and 3, and then sewer going west on along Highway 275 to get out to Fountain Point, and also some engineering for the Omaha Avenue lift station in Forest, Maine. This ordinance also approves a preliminary official statement and notice of sale, and we recommend approval on all 3 readings. As I said, Bruce is here, he can answer questions, and so can I.
Thank you, Randy. Any questions or comments, council? Okay, straightforward. All right, short title, please, Beth.
An ordinance authorizing the issuance of combined utilities revenue and refunding bonds, Series 2017, of the City of Norfolk, Nebraska, in the principal amount of not to exceed $9,500,000 for the purpose of refunding outstanding indebtedness and paying the costs of maintaining, extending, enlarging, and improving the waterworks plant and water system, sanitary sewer plant and sewer system, and solid waste transfer facilities owned by the city, pledging and hypothecating the revenues and earnings of the waterworks plant and water system, sanitary sewer plant and sewer system, and solid waste transfer facilities owned by the city for the payment of said bonds, providing for the issuance and sale of the bonds, authorizing the mayor or a designee to award the sale of the bonds to the bidder, providing the most favorable bid to city at public sale, authorizing the delivery of the bonds to the purchaser, and ordering the ordinance published in pamphlet form.
Okay, please vote.
All council members present voting in the affirmative, ordinance 5494 carries on first reading.
Your Honor,
I move we suspend the rules and pass ordinance 5494 on second and third.
second.
Okay, any discussion? If not, please vote.
All council members present voting in the affirmative, ordinance 5494 carries on second and third.
Okay, item number 29, waiting for a motion to consider resolution 2017-70, calling $1,735,000 of outstanding Series 2011B combined utilities revenue bonds for redemption.
Your Honor, I offer for consideration resolution 2017-70.
Second, Your Honor.
Okay, Randy?
Yes, this resolution and the next resolution are simply calling the bonds that we did the refunding for with the ordinance just before this.
Very good. Any further discussion, questions, comments, council? If not, please vote.
All council members present voting in the affirmative. Resolution 2017-70 is adopted.
Number 30, for a motion to consider Resolution 2017-71, calling $3,770,000 of outstanding Series 2012B combined utilities revenue bonds for redemption.
Your Honor, I'd move consideration of resolution 2017-71.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Not, please vote.
All council members present voting in the affirmative. Resolution 2017-71 is adopted.
Item number 31, for a motion to consider ordinance number 5495, authorizing issuance of special assessment bond anticipation notes in the principal amount not to exceed $1,950,000 to refund interim financing of Sewer District 247.
Your Honor, I'd move consideration of ordinance number 5495.
Second.
Okay. And Randy?
Yes, Your Honor. This is a refunding of the $2.25 million of bond anticipation notes we have outstanding for Sewer District 247. That's the sewer district going south of the river. We have not yet assessed that district, so we're not ready to do the long-term financing. So we'll roll these notes. We've got some prepayments that we had a contribution from one of the industries down there, and some other prepayments of special assessments, so we can reduce the note issue from what it was before. Reducing that for those prepayments and any note issues cost results in an issue expected to be $1,920,000, and this will be bid solicited with the local banks for this issue. And I think we'll get Sewer District 247 assessed here fairly soon. I think we've pretty much come to agreement with the property owners out there as to what the assessments will be. But in the meantime, we got to refund the existing bonds and get some money to carry us through until we get that assessment.
Very good. Questions for Andy? Comments? If not, short title, please, Beth.
An ordinance authorizing the issuance and sale of bond anticipation notes of the City of Norfolk, Nebraska in the principal amount of not to exceed $1,950,000 for the purpose of refunding interim financing issued to pay for the costs of sanitary sewer system improvements in Sanitary Sewer Extension District Number 247, pending the issuance of permanent general obligation various purpose bonds of the city, prescribing the form of said notes, agreeing to issue the city's general obligation various purpose bonds to pay the notes at maturity or to pay the notes from other available funds, entering into a contract on behalf of the city with the holders of said notes, authorizing officers of the city to make arrangements for the sale or placement of the notes, and to designate the final terms, rates, and maturity schedule for said notes within stated parameters, and providing for publication of this ordinance in pamphlet form.
Thank you, Beth. Roll call, please vote.
All council members present voting in the affirmative. Ordinance 5495 carries on first reading.
Your Honor, I'd move that we suspend the rules and pass ordinance number 5495 on second and third reading.
Second.
No discussion on that, please vote.
All council members present voting in the affirmative. Ordinance 5495 carries on second and third.
Okay, moving to item number 32, would entertain a motion to consider resolution number 2017-35, approving the preliminary plan development on property generally located a half-mile south from the intersection of Omaha Avenue and South 25th Street at the request of Gerhold Incorporated. To note, resolution number 2017-35 was removed from the June 19th City Council meeting.
I'd offer for consideration resolution 2017-35.
Second.
Okay, and Val, would you refresh our memory on this, please?
Yes, thank you. The preliminary plan development before you tonight is exactly what the Planning Commission saw, which is what we needed to do. And so there were some comments and a couple issues that came up at Planning Commission, and I believe the applicant may want to switch out what the planning commission saw and what is in your packet tonight to resolve hopefully one of those issues. If there's anything else background-wise, let me know.
Okay, thank you, Val. Looks like we,
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. I'm John Zwingman with Advanced Consulting Engineering Services. Steve, you want to pass out the small one? Here tonight to present the revised preliminary planning development plans. The revision includes the extension of an easement, 24-foot wide egress easement to the property. This easement will be extended to the property from 37th Street and will serve as the sole access to the property. The other work that we have done is we've been working with Mr. Ramus on ensuring that the plan that to this point and the future plans for grading and drainage are in compliance with the city code and with the FEMA regulations. I guess we've also been working on the preliminary drainage design. Mr. Ramus and I have had some conversation about how the drainage will be handled. Basically, it'll be handled with a ditch that will serve as retention along the road, and then the overflow and the release, the outlet will be to the lake. I don't know that I have any other points at this point unless Mr. Ramus or somebody else has questions.
all right. We have questions for John?
You said the drainage was a ditch?
It'll be in
The road, which road?
the road that goes
All the way
around the
around?
lake, yes.
Okay.
There'll be an the ditch will be sized to meet your best management practices and the city's current standards for water quality and stormwater
It's
discharge.
gonna be released back to the lake?
Yes, sir, it'll be released back to the lake.
Other questions for John? Give us a minute while we
Yes.
have a little bit of time to look at the new plan. Was this submitted to us by them? Just in resolution form to adhere to what was presented. Right. Other questions on the plan for John? Comments?
I have a question for Clint. These changes that come forward, well, how big of changes are they compared to what we've had 3 or 4 days to read?
I don't know.
And if they haven't been before
Here's-
the planning commission,
Let me talk about the procedure, and I think Steve can talk about about whatever, okay? About the changes. But the first thing, what's in the agenda packet is the information that was before the planning commission in May.
Right.
So with what's in the agenda packet is the information that's there. As this goes forward, I think, Steve, are you gonna be able to articulate specifically what's different than what the planning commission had? And then if, after you've had your discussion, may I, Mayor?
Yes.
After you've had the discussion, what would be contemplated is this. The council can either vote on the information that's in the agenda that you've had, or like anything else, you can take the information that was in the agenda packet and you can amend that. So the mayor has a resolution that I prepared that would allow for the substitution of what was before the planning commission, allow you to substitute what was before the planning commission with whatever's presented here. And then you can embrace that, and you can either decide as a body whether you want to vote on what was before the council or before the planning commission in May, or if you wanna vote on, something that you might amend, based upon what's been presented here this evening. Does that make any sense? And I think Steve is prepared to, articulate whatever's different from the, Steve or Val or somebody can talk about what's different in the plan development.
And certainly Val chime in, you're a little more experienced as a PD than myself. The two documents that create the PD are, is this in the pack? Yeah. Okay. So the two documents that create the PD are the description of the PD and the plat that you've got there, for lack of a better word, I'm gonna use the word plat. The document, the only document that's changed is gonna be, the plat, the only thing that's changed on the plat is a function of the developer changing engineering company. So it's really the name of the engineer that's on the plat that was handed out. It is no longer Johnson Engineering, it is now ACES out of West Point. So that document, that's the only thing that's changed, is the title block, the name of the engineer that's on it. The other document, the description of what's gonna be in the PD, what changed on this document is in this is, I believe Beth had this at your, at your desk up there. The item that changed was item number 9. And in this document here, it's the language that, buildings outside the 100-year flood zone may be below base flood elevation. However, the lowest openings will be 1 foot above the 100-year base flood elevation. The simplified approach or engineered basement option is described in technical bulletin 10-01, prepared by the Emergency Management Agency, shall be recommended for all buildings outside of the 100-year flood zone. So that was kind of the language. It's my impression that developing that language is where things kind of came to a stop back in June, and working with the developers to agree to that language is what's happened since then. So that's the change. Everything else in this document is exactly the same.
So, Steve, the date on this document is not accurate then?
The date on this document here is my impression that in the change of engineering companies, just recently, I believe these documents were shared with the new engineer. It looks like they went in there and made that change and did not change the date on the document. And so,
It should be dated.
in passing that, I would recommend a date of September 13th, 2017. And any motion would be amended to make that change to the document.
If I may, if that's what the council wants to embrace, what you would do is you would take this resolution that was distributed and you would merely attach the new plan, the engineer's drawing, along with the document that Steve just talked about with the change in it. Those would be attached to the resolution that was passed out here, and you'd be good to go.
Do I understand that correct, Val, that it's these two documents that create the PD?
Yes, these two documents create the PD, but I hate to disagree with you on the 24 by 36, what you were calling the plat. What did change is what the Planning Commission saw in May was an access across Melcher land to the north, and so that access has gone away. And what you're seeing here is not that 100-foot piece of property that they were going to potentially buy from the Melcher family, but it's now only a 24-foot easement across Chris Merkel's property. So that was the access change from what Planning Commission saw to what is presented here tonight.
And she is correct, that access did change. I'm not exactly sure what was in that that older document there, I believe it was shown as 100 feet.
90
Correct.
foot.
In I'm not gonna, shouldn't say negotiating, but in discussing the project with the developers, that seemed to be a complication to the project, to acquire that. They can provide 24-foot access to the development. The 24-foot access would be adequate as a private approach. Although it is not in the PD, I did have some conversation with them expressing concern about anything that would be less than a 30-foot wide easement. How would we adequately provide notice to the public that there's that it is providing a quasi-public access to the development? You're gonna have mail carriers, other deliveries, using that approach or using that private access. And they've expressed that they understand it's gonna have to be signed to provide notice to the public, potentially a gated access to the site to provide, again, notice to the public that this is not a private, or this is not a public road past this point. So I think that those types of things provide adequate notice, and the 24-foot wide easement would be reasonable.
All right, to try to make, go ahead.
This is just the preliminary of the PUD, correct?
That is correct.
And so when it comes back to us, there could be other items. This goes to the planning commission, or what's it do next here now?
It would go back before planning commission, not as a public hearing, the final plan development, and then the final plan development would come back before the council as a public hearing again.
Okay, because my concern is, okay, we have this that came from the planning commission, and we got a change here now, so when it goes back to the planning commission, does this exact document go back to them, whichever one's approved? Or does or can changes occur again?
I think changes could probably occur again, but this gives them direction to begin the process of putting a final PD together back before planning commission.
Okay. And I think everybody's well aware that the major concern is access coming off of 25th Street. And I don't see anything in this that says that access cannot come off of 25th Street. And, I thought that was one of the sticking points that was going to happen in this, and it doesn't seem to have. And when we go to the next item here, that was one of the things that I thought was gonna be spelled out specific, and it doesn't appear to be.
If I guess I'm not exactly sure where is investigated that discussion and that language. I was not able to find anything that coming out of the past meeting that was directing that. And so that is an item that is put in front of council, I guess, to contemplate. If that is direction back to staff to pursue that, we can certainly pursue that.
To make sense procedurally here of what's in front of us, I think, the process on this has seen starts and stops, but we're here today picking it back up with a revised plan. That plan is in front of the council in terms of the plan development and the new map presented to us, as well as a resolution that we would have to consider as an amendment, as I understand it, to move forward. I think at this point, before we jump through those steps. We'll invite discussion. We've kicked it off here already a bit, but would invite discussion on this. So I will open it up now to anyone wishing to come forward on the new plan and the proposal before us. Or not.
Mayor, City Council, main reason I'm here is because I've signed in. I better get on the record. With that being said, you know, I hear your comments. I would tell you this much. If you looked at the written agreement or the document, it says that access will be 37th Street, and that's what the engineer's plan shows. It's 37th Street by way of easement. So when we say 37th Street, it's going to be an easement over private property. And going through this for over a year now, you might recall the big issues. There was two big issues. I mean, let's just cut to it. The two big issues were this was there was objections filed for the access through 25th Street. My clients have every legal right to have put a plan in front of this council to go through 25th Street. They heard the concerns of the Planning Commission. They've heard the concerns of the council. In addition to that, what they have elected to do, and they heard the objections of their neighbors. They have now, over a year now, tried to negotiate with what we call the Melcher property. That was an exercise, an arduous task that did not come to fruition. We still didn't go back to the 25th Street. We're still using an access over to 37th Street. To be quite honest, is it preferred by my clients? No, because it takes them out west another mile. But we've made that commitment to go out 37th Street. As far as further restricting their property, I don't know what's gonna happen 50 years from now. This whole area could change, I don't know. But I'm telling you that what we're putting before you is 37th Street. In addition to that, we would still have a legal right to go out 25th if we wanted. We're not going out 25th Street. Talking to council before this proceeding, he said, make sure you underscore that you're not going out 25th Street. Those are the documents in front of you. The second issue, of course, was what was changed in number 9. Mr. Jackson, a good question, you know, what's changed? I'd be the same way. Somebody gives me a new document, what's new in it? Well, I'll tell you what's new in it is that extra couple sentences in paragraph 9. And that too, and I think some of the council or some other meetings to see, you know, that was hashed out considerably. That's just not just an extra sentence or two. That took a lot of pain to get to that state. But point is, it follows city code and it follows FEMA. So that's what we present tonight. That's my long-winded, but those are the two major points on this whole project that had us here for a year. So we're excited. It's new to the community. It's not a TIF project. Can't be more excited to get this through. So any other questions?
When you talk about the paragraph 9 there that you put in, it says that it shall recommend, but not require.
Correct. FEMA.
Because according to the FEMA document, any land that's adjacent to a floodplain, if you're building below floodplain level, is required according to the FEMA document.
I'd agree with that.
Okay. So
And this says anything outside the 100, because there's a lot of this area that's outside the 100-foot. So this is just saying if it's outside the 100-foot, this is the requirement from, or the recommended language from FEMA. But in the 100-foot plane, you're right, we can't.
But it says adjacent to. That means outside of. If you're gonna dig below the flood zone.
The lowest open to be 1 foot above the 100-year flood, and all the language comes directly from FEMA.
But according to constructing a base. That's what that's about.
I didn't even stand at Holiday Inn Express for an engineering question, so hold on.
And we're considering this, what is,
The language was developed with conversation from FEMA, and I believe, Steve, you were in on some of that. I actually was not in on it. It was just, it was already set, and then it was presented to me. So
that, we reviewed that language with the Nebraska Floodplain Management Office, and they were acceptable to that language.
So just saying it, so we recommend you do it. So what does that do to Val? What does that do to our flood insurance?
Right now, our code for the floodplain only requires inside the 100-year floodplain. So if they are in a zone.
It doesn't take into consideration the FEMA document?
Not at this time. If we were to put that in our flood regulations, then we would have more standing to require this of other people, but right now, that is not in our code. So if they are in technically Zone X, they do not have to build 1 foot above. They can put in a full 9-foot basement if that's what they wanna do. Would it be recommended? Probably not, based on sandy soils and knowing how water works out there, but they don't have to do it.
And then on Article 2, page 349.
That's on.
In regards to the soil and the compaction of it or buildability of the soil, you're just gonna recommend that they do it, you don't, it's not required by a developer to know whether they can build on the land or not safely?
Sorry, where are you
It's,
at?
Article 2, 349 under my agenda.
Okay, I see, I found it here.
It's under representations and warranties.
Yeah, basically, that just states that it will be the homeowner's responsibility to do any soil test, prior to building their house.
So
Which
Not the-
is extremely simple to do. You just order a compaction study. That's what we do.
pretty cheap.
Yeah, yeah, it's very reasonable.
Is that pretty standard in these kind of
Pretty
developments?
standard in lake type developments, yes.
And most people will order that because the fact of you don't want, you won't be warranting a foundation. You're gonna want it to be stable. So you'll order a compaction study to make sure you're putting something on
So
stable.
is this something they do before they buy?
It's something you do during construction, and you build the
Oh,
suit.
you don't construct it till you buy it, but if you're going to buy it, wouldn't it be
Typically, no.
something good to know?
No, usually you don't have compaction studies done before. But every lot is subject to a compaction study if you need it. If I bring in topsoil, if I tear out a basement,
Yeah.
you know, you're gonna want a compaction study to make sure that you're not building over faulty ground, which is something you would typically do if you're concerned about the compaction of the soil.
Let the buyer beware in that
Well,
type of situation. It's
not
predominantly
really, it's just-
sand.
We've been building on sand for a long time, you know, I mean, this is the only house that's gonna be built on sand.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? So it is, just you change the way you do your footings, and you'll get a recommendation from an engineer who says, this is how I want my footings done, this is how I want this dug. It's a very simple process to follow.
And we will get a John ACES will be providing that engineer certification that is part of Bulletin 1001 as well.
Yes.
Any other questions?
I've sat through quite a few of these meetings too, along with everybody up here, and, it seems to me like, you know, it's kind of reminds me of recently of a project in my neighborhood that just passed, where the people in the neighborhood upset about going on to Bluff, and the developers came back and said, hey, we're gonna try to get it to Paswalk, and it, you know, was a team effort and a group effort, and everybody agreed with that, and the neighborhood was happy, and I think these guys have decided, hey, we're not going on a 25th. That was a major, red flag for everybody, and they've gone on trying to get on the 37th by going through, somebody's property, and it's not ideal, but it's the way to go. They couldn't get the property they were looking for. So I think that in my opinion is, you know, working together to try to make sure the industry is happy and trying to provide the housing needs that we've been asking for the last couple of years for developers to step up and do. So, I mean, I can look at that as kind of like hey, here's an olive branch. You know, we'll go out on 37th isn't ideal for us to sell lots in here, but we'll keep people off 25th. So, and then they also, you know, you look at the work that was done on number 9. That language wasn't really in the initial. I know I haven't been a part of any of those discussions, except for originally, but our plans still have to be stamped and approved when their plans will still have to be stamped and approved before they are by our engineering staff, before you can even start construction process too. So, I mean, I think there's checks and balances there to ensure that people will be having homes built properly in that location.
we are still open for discussion. If there's any other desired public input on this. If not, we'll move through this procedurally, and as I understand it, and Clint help me navigate through this, what's before us at this time is a revised plan development and with it, a new map. The resolution number 2017-35 in front of us matches those documents, and the revised resolution needs to come before us in terms of an amendment. So at this point, would seek a motion to amend Resolution 2017-35 with the revised resolution that has just been outlined in our discussion.
I'll make the motion, Your Honor.
Second.
Okay? Is there any further discussion on that? Questions or concerns? If not, I would ask for your vote on the amendment to the resolution.
Voting in favor of amending Resolution 2017-35, council members Granquist, Langy, Merrow, Clausen, Murin, Faust, File. Voting against the motion, Councilman Jackson. Motion carries.
The original motion has been amended. Open any discussion on the amended resolution. And if there's none, would ask for your vote on the resolution as amended.
Voting in favor of Resolution 2017-35 as amended, council members Granquist, Langy, Merrow, Clausen, Murin, Faust, File. Voting against the motion, Councilmember Jackson. Resolution 2017-35 as amended is adopted.
Okay, before we move on to ordinance number 5447, which approves the zoning change from agricultural district to SR suburban residential on property generally located half-mile south from the intersection of Omaha Avenue and South 25th Street. We'll note that this ordinance was it passed on first reading at the May 1st, 2017 City Council meeting and tabled at the May 15th, 2017 City Council meeting. So I would look for a motion to remove the table on second reading. Okay?
Second.
Okay, any discussion on that?
Your Honor, I don't know that I can support taking this off of the table until I see this plan unit development come back before us. That was my objection at the last time, and the reason that we asked for the tabling, because, correct me if I'm wrong, Val, if this zoning change goes through, there's nothing saying that this preliminary PUD has to go any further.
You're correct, yes.
I mean, what keeps us from ultimately, okay, we make the zoning change, and the PUD preliminary, that was my biggest problem with it before, is that it's not standing out there, so it doesn't, it's preliminary, it goes no further than that in a year's time, or nothing ever occurs on it, we don't have a PUD. All we have is a zoning change from agricultural to residential, and granted, it shows 30 lots right now, and I have no doubt believe that it wouldn't, but it could. So that's what I mentioned at the time when we took the vote in May, and I thought we were leaving enough time for all this other stuff to catch up to it, but suddenly it seems like it hasn't caught up to it, and that it's just going to be a trust us situation thing, and I don't know that that's something that we really wanna I can't hang my hat on that, so.
Val, can you outline the process for us as to what would happen should this zoning change be successful tonight? What happens with this plan, the new plan, and moving forward in the process?
If the zone change goes tonight, all 3 readings, potentially you could have 12,000 square foot lots out there. What you just approved with the preliminary PD is a guide in preparation to the final PD, that's all it is. And if they do not get a final PD approved within a year of tonight, the plan development goes away. And so there is no guarantee of density or anything like that. They could potentially sell it off to somebody else, and even if you have a final plat, you could go from 30 lots to 300 lots, with this zoning of SR. Like you said, it's kind of a trust, but that's potentially what could happen.
Yeah.
Mr. Lang, we appreciate your concerns, and we agree. We don't want the final reading tonight. Maybe offer the solution of a second reading tonight, then we can do the final reading when the final plan comes before this body. That's fine. It's not our desire to change the zoning and do a bait and switch. If we want to do a second reading tonight, that's fine. That's probably what we're more comfortable with, because we too don't want to change zoning on land that we're in that process of purchasing. Because the owner would probably not prefer that at this point. So if my offer of solution would be, let's just do a second reading tonight, not a final reading or a third reading, and then when we come back with the final plan, we can do it all at that time. But I agree with where your concerns are, so to help out the trust, I'd offer that as a solution.
Is discussions not allowed on third reading?
Discussion is not allowed on third reading. So as a reminder, this has been passed on first reading, May 1st. We're on second reading tonight.
So
Second reading only if we so choose.
But we would have those changes in front of us for the third reading. Correct? We'd have the changes in front of us.
Theoretically, yes.
Would that be the
So-
final then, in front of us next time?
That'd be final reading.
No.
I mean, the final plat?
Again, my concern would be though that the PUD gets in front of this.
That's what I mean.
I think that's what you were referring to.
Yes.
I would not feel very comfortable about a PUD, coming at the same meeting as the third reading came forward. It was just what showed up here even. The PUD changed from, and a lot of things changed. I know it was the change in the engineering and stuff like that, but, the PUD needs to make it before the third reading makes it, preferably not at the same meeting. And that, is that gonna set things back some? I'll set it back 2 weeks, cause that's how far our meetings are apart that way, but, we are not at that point in time right now where I think that that's a critical situation.
So, again, what's before us to decide is whether to take the table off of this tonight on second reading consideration, with stated intent that this would be a second reading only consideration, or not, and have the PUD move forward, and wait to consider the zoning change. The motion before us is whether or not to take off the table on second.
I would like to take it off the table and get the second reading done with their guarantee, like Jim said, that it catches up and goes before it, not on the same meeting, then we have the final after that. keep this process at least slowly moving forward.
Again, that's my point, Councilman Fowles, is that whether it moves forward slowly or not, it's still, the second reading could occur after the PUD is approved, and then the second reading could occur, and the third reading could occur at the same time, but the second reading actually allows discussion, where the third reading does not allow discussion.
That's true, that's true.
So if we pass it tonight,
If we take it off the table and pass it, then we're still waiting for the stuff to come forward. Whereas if we wait till the PUD passes, then we take it off the table and vote on second reading, we could suspend the rules and pass it on third at the same time. So it isn't, the time frame is no different, other than the time frame, in my opinion, waits for the PUD to precede the zoning change.
And I think that would be due diligence by the council.
Because it won't change the end result at the time. They just have to get us their product first, so.
Any further discussion on the motion?
If it would help,
To do-
we're comfortable with that. I understand the concerns that the council's expressing. We're comfortable with that recommendation, not taking it off the table at this time.
Okay. If no further discussion, please vote.
Voting in favor of taking it off the table, council members Merrow, Clausen, Jackson. Voting in favor of taking it off the table was Merrill, Clausen, and Jackson. Voting against taking it off the table, Granquist, Langy, Murin, Faust, and File. Motion fails.
I voted no, said I was leaving it on the table. As long as it's
Motion remains on the table. That concludes this meeting of the Norfolk City Council.
Oh, we got public comment?
Public comment?
Josh.
Mr. Mayor?